You're watching the Mondays with Midja podcast. Midja is founder and CEO of Legal Leadership, a company specializing in the leadership training and coaching of lawyers. Get set to jumpstart your week with a shot of mojo as Midja and her guests talk all things life, love, and leadership.
Hey, it's Monday and I'm Midja, and welcome to the podcast all about life, love and leadership. Now, I'm in the studio with a guest today. Always super exciting to have a guest in our studio, but when it is your bestie, it is, I don't know, next level. And I'm super pumped, as I said, to have Meagan King, who is the Director of Innovation at Methodist Ladies College, here in the studio on the Gold Coast. Welcome, Meagan.
Thank you. Very excited to be here, excited to be on your podcast and also to be on the beautiful Gold Coast.
So, Meagan, we've known each other for a little while. I thought we might, I might get you to tell the story about how we met, and also we talk a lot about knowing your people. You know, I think even like in business, when we're going for a new role or anything like that, becoming part of a new team, you know, it's that cultural alignment piece. Are these my people?
Sure.
So how we met and why we're each other's people.
Okay.
Or peeps.
All right, great. So we need to rewind the clock about 8-9 years ago, and our youngest children, both of our youngest children, were starting their education journey, and they were both 2 years old in the ELC at a particular school, and we headed in, so both of us rushing around, very busy work lives, I think dropping off kids, picking up kids without too much interaction with other parents, and we both found ourselves, and in fact with our third musketeer as well, at a Mother's Day presentation.
Oh God, yes.
And it was a beautiful presentation, and all the kids were singing a song. Can't remember the song, but it was very precious. And pretty much every single parent in that room pulled out the longest lens camera you've ever seen in your life, and completely and utterly just snapped away and iPadded and videoed and iPhoned and the whole thing. And I was just trying to be in the moment for a bit, watching my son, and I couldn't see him. I got to see other people's cameras. I got to see other people barging and jockeying to get there. And I just had a little pan around the room, and there was basically 2 other people that were in the same space as me, just trying to look and be in the moment. And you were one of them.
Yep.
So I thought, this is interesting. I think I might have to go and have a chat to that person afterwards. She seems like somebody that I'd get along well with. And after that, we found out that, in fact, our beautiful Jack and Lucas were BFFs.
Yeah.
And they'd met each other on the first day, and they'd been inseparable. And there we found ourselves looking at that. So, look, it was a great start, certainly understanding a little bit about each other with regard to our approach to being in the moment, being present. And I think from there, over the years, having different careers, but always finding each other, you know, great to talk to about things, to, you know, I guess be that critical friend in a way as well. We all need that person who can sort of, you know, give you some advice, good, bad and in between. And they're not in your space. They're not in your professional space. Yeah. But in terms of the way they think and the way they operate, amazing to have that in your life.
Absolutely love that. And I don't know whether mine was being present or just like third child, just complete disinterest at that point. And I'm like, I've been enough to these things that I'm like, I'm so over this kindy Mother's Day or whatever we're singing. But no, I was present.
Okay,
I was in the moment.
I think I was thinking whether everything back then if you weren't being present.
I was. I remember. I think it was early in the morning because there was a part of me thinking, "Are they serving wine at this event? Why is there no champagne? No champagne.
No, I think it was a morning tea.
I think it was too.
You may have been given something that children prepared, which you should never eat.
I know, especially those kindies. Oh my goodness. So you're in the innovation space, in the innovation game, in education. And I know a lot of people listening to the podcast or in the legal industry or in other professional services or running their own business as well. So I suppose maybe start with what exactly is your role?
Sure.
What are you there to do? What do they pay you to do?
Okay,
over
it's a
there?
great question because I think a lot of people like to ask that question. And I think in a school environment, the innovation space is obviously rapidly growing. But my boss was really ahead of the game in appointing this. It was an inaugural position at the beginning of 2020, looking at innovation and how we can actually impact on pedagogy, very educational word, but how we can impact on the life of students both whilst they're at school and also preparing them. So for me, the innovation space in schools is very much about schooling of the future and the workplace of the future. So, we've got our Gen Zs that are still in school at the moment, and now we've got our Gen Alphas coming through. Yeah. These are very different.
Boys are alphas.
And they're alphas.
Yeah.
So I have a Z and an alpha.
Yes.
As do you, but I think it's really interesting. The alphas and the world that they're going to go into. Their generation glass, and devices are just an extension of their limbs. So how do we actually prepare from a school environment? What do we look at in a school environment to prepare them for what they're going to be faced for in the workforce? And I'm sure you've heard, all of these jobs and these industries that don't even exist yet are what we need to prepare them for. So how do you actually do that? Well, that's a tricky question, and certainly an industrial style of education is not going to prepare them.
Cut it.
It's not going to cut it. And so what do? So from an innovation perspective, and look, it is a buzzword and you need to be careful of that, but it's your definition of it, regardless of the industry that you're in. How do you define innovation for your specific context? And it will look different. For me, innovation can be many, many things. So you can look at something that's happening in your business or in your school, in my context, and say, look, there's some fantastic programs. These are amazing, but they just need a little tweak. There might be just something small that I need to change up, whether or not that's about some student advocacy, whether or not that's about our staff advocacy and how they're actually involved in the decision-making process. That might be just something small that we're changing about a program, but it completely, it is an innovation for sure, and then right through to radical innovation. You've got everything on the spectrum that happens with regard to innovation. For me, I think there's definitely been a combination of things that have meant that it's been successful, but certainly in my industry, it has been something that you need to give people time.
Right.
So I often refer to it as a toe dip. We need to dip our toes in, we need to just have a little bit of a think about it. We need to give people a chance to know what it is. And it's sort of innovation, change management, similar in a way.
Yes.
What is the vision? Why are we doing this? Because if people don't understand the why, they are never going to follow.
Yeah.
And absolutely. I think that's a huge part of what I do is thinking about the vision and working with other leaders to think about the strategic intent. And schools are businesses. So what is the strategic intent? What is it that we want to achieve? And how are we going to step that out? So you have, you've got to have your vision. You need to then have the incentives. Why would people want to get involved in this? You need to resource it. You need to think about how you're actually going to prepare people to be successful with this change. But you need to have an action plan.
Yeah.
And I think that is a huge thing in every business. And sometimes we confuse innovation by thinking it's snapping off a quick tech idea or, it's an ad hoc.
Plug in something. Let's get a plug in and do this.
Yeah, and it's not about that at all. It really is very much about improving and enhancing what might be otherwise awesome already, but we can always keep moving forward. So, as I said, in my context, it's about future-proofing for our students so that they are absolutely ready for the world of work that they're going to face, which is it's really different. Keep in mind that this generation coming through, which we all know the stats, and I'm probably not going to get them quite right, but something like 16 jobs across 5 different industries in their lifetime. At the moment, that's what we're hearing. And I mean, it's no longer a case of when you're in year 10 and your careers counsellor says to you, what do you want to do when you grow up?
I remember getting a huge book. I got a huge book in high school with all the jobs in it. So from A and then like botanist and biologist, you know, and then I marked like the lawyer page, and that like you just chose from a book.
And that's it. And that's what I did. And I chose teaching.
Yes.
And we had friends that chose nursing, and we had friends that chose accounting, and we had absolutely. And that is not the case anymore. And so how do we actually help young people be prepared for that? For me, it comes back to all the time knowing your values.
Yes.
Knowing yourself. What excites you? What are the things that you're exploring at school? For me, and whether in for other people within your business, what is it that gives you genuine joy? And it's funny, I talk to my husband about this and say, he will say to me, I know when you've been working on one of the projects that you love because of the tone of your voice.
Right.
So he'll say, I know when it's been a day where you've been a bit bogged down in operations because you sound different.
Yes.
I'm like, that's so true. How do I know? So how do we teach young people to listen to themselves and to understand those values and those passions, and how are they going to create what I would, and look, this is certainly an MLC turn of phrase, and also a fabulous young entrepreneur that I work with, so business name, but I would say, how do we create a purposeful future?
Yes. Yeah. I love that, you know, a couple of points there around, you know, that purpose, that why piece, you know, so important, you know, not just the innovation or change for the sake of it, but what are we actually trying to create here through this? You know, what's the transformation piece we're trying, like if we're here, where are we trying to get to, and how can we think differently and get into that creative, innovative space in order to get where we want to be? And then, get the buy-in around that. So people go, okay, well, what's in it for me around that? And it was I think on Gary V's feed on Instagram, I think yesterday or this morning when I was having a look, he talked about like the boredom space, and he's like, when we're bored or lazy. No, he was talking about laziness. It wasn't boredom, it was laziness. And he was like, you know, kind of, don't be too hard on yourself if you're lazy. He goes, it's such great insight for you, because if we're not motivated to do something, if you're feeling lazy, if you're feeling stuck or whatever, think about, well, what is it about this piece of work or this day or whatever it is that I got no mojo with this? And then compare that to the days or the work you do at school or the subject or the type of learning you're doing where you're like in flow or whatever you want to.
Absolutely.
And get younger, you know, our young people to really recognize that. I know for me, like speaking and stuff at school and being able to do that, it just lit me up. Like I was just so excited to do it. And if I can make a career then from speaking and from that, my thoughts and speaking them and doing that, being able to articulate that for others, that's a job, that's a life.
And it's powerful because, you know, you're going to bring that energy and that excitement into what you're doing.
Yeah.
I think if, you know, and think about it from the other perspective. So we were lucky. We both made those choices perhaps, but a lot of perhaps people that are ex-gen may not have.
Yes.
And it's a long life to be doing something that doesn't bring you joy. I love what I do. I love what I do every day. I'm excited about it. And I want to make sure that young people know that that's a future that they can create for themselves. And that might change, you know, over time. So what are the sorts of skills?
Yeah.
How do we innovate within a pretty packed curriculum? So those of you that are in education would know that. You know, you're very much bound by a lot of rules with curriculum and whatnot. But how do we actually, it's about the way we teach. So are we focusing on content or are we focusing on skills? It has to be about skills.
Yes.
And I would say everything needs to be about a strength switch.
Yeah.
So what are we thinking about? How are we focusing on our strengths and drawing those out from whatever activity that we're doing? But I want to go back to what you were just saying about Gary's feet, and let's think about that concept of boredom.
Yep.
Right? These days, nobody's ever bored. Right? Everything's filled. Your kids have got 40,000 sports on and 800 co-curriculars, and everybody's running around like lunatics. You know, where's the time for them to create?
Yeah.
Where's the space for you to think?
Mm-hmm.
And I know for me, I always build in time to reflect and think, because that's where your best ideas come from.
Yeah.
You know, where are you creating a time, like we were just saying earlier? Where's your friends who professionally and personally challenge you to create? And I think that that's something, worth exploring in every industry.
And it's something leaders talk to me a lot about, business owners. They're like, Midge, number one thing I would want is just time to stop the doing and just to think about my business, to think about what next. As you said, to think about what the strategy is moving forward. I got no time to think, you know, and I think, you know, then, you know, we look at the last few years and we've got people working from home. We don't even have, you know, the space between work and home to kind of decompress and to think about the day we've had and to tell ourselves, well, what happened there? How am I going to
there's no second space, let alone a third space.
Yeah, that's right.
Where's your thinking time?
It's like, yeah. And then, another week goes by and another month and another year and then another year without the space. And it's the same, you know, in my space, like people are like, you know, we don't have time for a strategic day off-site, or we don't, you know, or retreat or this or that. And you can see things just like, can you just come in and do an hour? And it's like, well, I can. I mean, sure, you pay me, I can do it. Is it really going to yield the results we want?
Absolutely.
Is it going to get us into that space that we actually need to be in?
Yeah.
Well, no.
You can't afford to not do that.
Yeah.
I mean, but we all feel that. I know that there's a particular group that I'm in, another awesome podcast, by the way, Ed Leaders.
Oh, Ed Leaders, okay, cool.
I go to a group that they created, and, you know, every time it comes around, I think, oh, I'm so busy today, I've got a rush, all the things that we think. And every time I walk away, I'm inspired, I'm excited, I've had a chance to really unpack some thinking, I've had a chance to speak to other educational leaders who challenge me, and I'm thinking, yeah, okay, it was really worth my time, and I really value that. And I think they're the things that we all need to think about. We must create that time. Otherwise, there will be no strategic thinking, and then we're just basically putting lids on pots.
Yeah, and that thinking time just adds so much value to every other hour of that day or that week. And, you know, I try and challenge people around, you know, what have you done today that has actually added value? You know, apart from the emails and this and that or the other, but tell me around, like what's connected with strategy, with values, with mission, with how did you step into that space? And it's just I was busy, but I'm not sure doing what, I don't know. But
Well, that's the thing.
With my head cut off.
So that's what I guess I'm saying. If people think that they don't know what innovation is, that's what innovation is. To give yourself some space and some time to, whether or not it is, make those tweaks or make a radical change or bring in something really exciting and new. So for me, it is often working with young entrepreneurs. It's working with people in social enterprise. It's now extended to working with corporates and universities and TAFEs and getting that whole community together to challenge each other and to create something really special for our students. And that's been really, really exciting. And then what that's then helped me bring in terms of programs have been some pretty huge innovations. And I love that. But that whole entrepreneurial mindset, and I've heard somebody else talk about this, and I totally agree. We're not trying to say we're going to create, everybody's going to become an entrepreneur. That's not what it's about. It's about how do I think like an entrepreneur.
Yes.
And for me, I run a couple of programs where the students actually get into groups and work through design thinking challenges. We partner up with some big corporates. We do some great work with some young entrepreneurs, actually Queensland-based group. Give them a little plug called BOP. Doing amazing work with Scott Miller. Run a big festival with him as well. Another plug for me. But I find that when I'm working in that space, not only am I really inspired, but I think I'm creating great opportunities for our students to become what we often refer to as an intrapreneur.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I talk to leaders about this kind of the mindset and the skill set of people working within corporate or within organisations, and
So important.
and what we want from our future kind of leaders within sort of an organisation.
We have to, and that's the whole point. That's what an innovation education is about. It is about creating young people who are agile thinkers, who are capable of collaboration. Now, that's really tough for some people, particularly, when you have very highly intelligent people. Collaboration is a skill you need to learn. So you need to learn collaboration, you need to learn agility, you need to learn creativity in exactly the same way. Well, not exactly the same way, but certainly you need to spend the same amount of time that you would learn chemistry, or that you would learn, economics.
It's
or
that
you would
skill
learn,
thing, as you were saying.
Absolutely.
It's a skill thing. My kids are trying to convince me that that's what online gaming is doing for them, is building collaboration. And I listen, like, our youngest boys, and I listen. And sometimes I'm a bit harsh on it or whatever, as I think lots of my generation parents kind of are like, you're on this again, you're doing that, whatever. But then now I've started to like listen, and like Tom will say to me, he goes, listen to what they're talking about though. Like they're strategically going, right, you do this, you do that. No. Okay. And there's this collaboration and this strategy going on. Even from my youngest, some of the language, I'm like, excuse me, that I don't like so much. But it's collaboration. It's an interesting thing.
And there's
and I poo-poo on it sometimes. I'm trying to see it a bit differently.
I think you should, because the reality is esports is huge. Esports is coming to the Olympics, but there is a lot to esports. It's not just about gaming. There's a group called the Fuse Cup based in Queensland.
Oh, yes, I've heard of that.
Amazing,
through the school.
doing amazing work. And I'm partnering with them at the moment. We're now, which I think is super exciting, to be in a girls' school that's running esports competitions. But it is very much about digital citizenship, safe online practices. They partner with Kids Helpline. They're doing some really great work in that space. So, again, I agree. A lot of the Gen X's, what are they doing? But, have a little bit of a delve, and I love that you've had a deep dive there and listen, because the collaboration and the skills that they are learning are pretty incredible. And then are they transferable? Because as soon as we've got some transferable skills there, it's pretty powerful.
Absolutely. So I wanted to get your take on, because most of the leaders stuff I'm working with, Generation X, Generation Y.
Yes.
And they are they don't know what to do with maybe the alphas that are going to come through. They're the owners of the business, so they're owning the law firm or whatever. And I just don't think, like, they don't know how to prepare. And there's also a heightened kind of fear around, well, traditionally we want to train people and kind of nail them to the desk so that they're just going to stay.
Yeah.
And so when you say like 14 jobs and 5 different industries and that, I hear owners of businesses going, Well, what? So that what they're going to come and go, and they're
They
going to
are.
recruit more, and then
You
they're going to
are.
train more, and so a little around, as owners of the business or leaders of the business, how to create, I suppose, a model or what the strategy is to be able to harness that talent, use it while it's there, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Firstly, I would say don't be scared of it.
Yeah.
Okay, so intergenerational, it's on my notes that I haven't had to use yet, so that's been fun. But intergenerational collaboration to me is absolutely so powerful. So I mentioned before Bop. So Scott, who is the CEO of Bop, and I do a lot of work together. Scott is 22. I am an undisclosed figure that is not 22. And
We may be celebrating a big birthday soonish.
No talking about that. But what I find is, there is that intergenerational collaborations that we do are incredible. And we've just run a huge educational festival together. We're about to do another one in November. And one of the things that we talk about when we work together is there is no alpha in this. So we both have very different skill sets, incredibly different skill sets. But that's awesome.
Yes.
So, one steps forward and takes over one aspect of the business and what's happening in that, while the other one steps back, and vice versa, and it moves and it flows. We joke about it. I've been banned off the Canva account because every time he gives me access, I delete whole pages by accident. That's okay, And I think they're the things that I would say to business. Don't be afraid of that. The smartest people employ people that are smarter than them.
Yeah.
It's absolutely incredible to get, and not only that, about intergenerational, but I would say really diverse thinking. Nobody wants a whole team of people that are pale imitations of oneself.
Yes.
You really need to have people that will challenge your thinking, and that's how you will actually grow. For me, if that's as a school leader, or for your other listeners as a business leader, you need people that are diverse, that think differently than you, and you need to be open to listen to that. You don't have to always agree.
Yes.
And that's the other thing I would say. Disagreeing with somebody doesn't need to be combat.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So as a leader and as a business owner, when you have young people and you're working with young people and they're disagreeing with you, you've got to kind of shake off respect your elders. And
when I was your age.
the boss told me to do that. I would have done it in 5 seconds. It's not helpful.
Yeah, not helpful.
Build trust. Get to know them, respect each other.
Yes.
For your strengths, go back to that strength switch. Understand what each person can bring in to the team and respect that.
Yeah.
Ultimately, the business owner, the leader of the school, whoever, they bear the responsibility, sure.
Yes.
So sometimes they need to make a decision, and that's that.
Yeah.
But there's many other times when that collaborative thinking and that, shared brainstorming and is so powerful.
Absolutely. So out of everything we've spoken about, I know we've spoken about like innovation and leadership and education, top tips from you around, as you said, it is a sort of a buzzword.
Sure.
Actually, even in the car this morning, did you hear when that client rang and they talked to me about their leadership group? There was a chief innovation officer.
Absolutely.
And I'm starting to hear that more now. We've got marketing, we've got finance, we've got, people and culture, and innovation. It's like, now
Everywhere.
Most
So
exec teams
important.
have got now
Absolutely.
a chief innovation officer.
And there's some absolutely fantastic people in that space. I would say though, and of course this is stolen from many people and lots of ideas and so much reading that I do and podcasts that I listen to, but I would say 4 things. And I think that these are things that you probably do all the time yourselves, and so many people would. Number 1, be real.
Yeah.
Be real. Don't be anyone else.
We got that.
Don't be anyone else. Everyone else is taken. Only be yourself. So be real.
Yep.
Number 2, be relatable.
Yeah.
Let people know you.
Yep.
Find out who they are, but let them know you. So be relatable. Be curious. You don't know everything. You know,
Really?
you don't. I'm so sorry. You don't know everything. I don't know everything.
Yeah.
Be curious. Find out.
I talk a lot to leaders about being like anthropologists.
Yes.
You know, just going, oh, isn't that? Wow, okay. That's, so if someone gives you some feedback or you're in a meeting and someone reacts in a certain way, to go, oh,
ask, why did you react that way?
Yeah.
What you're gonna that's how you are going to learn, and you are going to innovate. So
Yes.
you know,
Okay, love
because
that.
you are going to. And finally for me, it is be connected. Okay, so we've talked about it. Be present, be connected, be in that moment in time with people. Don't be that person that when someone comes into your office that you're just still writing your email at the same time as you're listening to them, only with one ear.
Yeah.
Be truly connected to what you're doing at that time, or whom you're with. And I think that for me, they are my 4 things that I really I'm working on, and certainly not perfect at, but trying really hard with.
I love that. Now, we've got to the part of the podcast which everyone knows is now the love section of the podcast. Now, Meagan's like rolling her eyes because she's obviously, as a friend, has just lived through all this love life journey with me, and the past, how many years have I been single? 6 or 7 years that I've been out there dating and stuff. Why are you giving me that look for?
Longer than that, I think. Sorry.
Maybe. Don't tell me that. I'm just saying it's
longer.
6 or 7 years of being single. And I'm putting out there in the universe that this is my year for big love.
Okay.
I feel like I'm in a good space. I don't know whether you feel like I'm in a good space, but I don't know. I feel like this is my time. I'm ready for someone. Now, okay. No, we're going to, firstly, I'm going to talk about your love story first.
Okay.
And then you can talk to me about what my love story is going to be, right?
All right.
Your love story, Meagan.
My love story. My love story is so beautiful.
It is. I love this story. It's so cool.
I met my husband, in fact, when I was very young, via families and sport and whatnot. And so he was a part of my life, just as a friend and part of our family, I think, for many, many years. Well, not many, many years, but for quite a few years before we decided when I was 18 that we were quite in love with each other. So from 18 years old, I know I have been with my husband. I was married by the time I was 22. And we have been, and now I can't tell you how many years I've been married, because then it answers the other question. All right,
Yeah,
26 years. I've been 26 years married. And look, I think for me, our love journey has been, like lots of people, we've been through loads. Of course, we've moved many times. We've had so many different things in our life. We were married for a long time before we had children, and that's a different podcast. But certainly lots of challenges there. But we now have our beautiful boys, and which just gives us such great joy. But lots and lots of challenges along the way. And the one thing that we always found, and we are, by the way, polar opposites. We are so different. We're so different in every way. And so
I always think, oh my goodness, like when all of us are all together and he's just like, wow.
So loud.
Okay, this is a lot.
And, but yet he loves that. He loves that about me. He always backs me and always, make sure, like just saying little things, I'm proud of you and I admire you. Yeah. And I think, that is a true love story, because there'll be lots of challenges for everybody, but to perhaps, and in the small things you might be really different and make really different decisions. We always make the same, or we always have the same opinion about the big decisions.
I love the way, because obviously I'm around a lot and I hear phone conversations or whatever. and especially when you're in cars and answering phones and that. And yeah, I'm proud of you. That, and I'm like, okay. So after all that time together, still for him to say that and be in that space. And I really love and it's probably not a story you want to share, but I think it's a Kentucky story. But around that is that he lets you be you.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So, and you've seen when I've dated men who have not liked me being me.
So that leads us straight into my advice for you. And it is my advice for you 9 years ago. It is my advice to you now, and it will be my advice to you in the future.
Oh, God.
Is always the same. If somebody doesn't love you for who you are, every single last bit of you, they are not for you. So if your big love is coming, it is going to be somebody that absolutely loves everything that you are. And as you know, we laugh.
Yeah.
Oh, now that you've revealed some of mine, I'm going to reveal some of yours. We laugh that people can be so different. So I'm obviously staying with you at the moment. Our houses look really different, right?
So it is loosey-goosey at the Fishers. There's not a whole lot of domestic duties going on. It's a loose ship that I run, the Fisher household.
And King Central is a very well-oiled machine, and it is a very, very tidy show. So, but that's okay because you love me for the way I like everything ordered and whatnot, and I love you for the way you are, and somebody who comes into your life needs to love every last bit of you. The fun side, the serious side, the intellectual side, the reflective side. If they don't love all of that, they're not for you. Yep. So, you just got to...
There's been a lot not for me, Meagan.
Well, that's okay.
That's okay. We're just...
That's okay.
He's out there.
He's out there. And I think the other thing about it is that, I wouldn't just think that it's one person that you're ever going to get your love from because you have so much to give. You have so many people that you can get your love from as well. So I think that's important. We don't just only rely on one person. And sorry to get super philosophical here, but maybe your big love is yourself.
Sorry. It's going to be like the last episode for the year. It'll be like, and she didn't find big love out there. She found it in herself.
Well, look. You know that's true. If you don't love you, ain't no one else going to.
But I feel like, I don't know, but for me, I do feel like I'm really in that space in the last few months. I just feel like, not really in love with myself, but I feel like I'm in a good space. Like I feel like I'm loving where I'm at, who I am.
And that's all it is. And it's
I don't know, there's been a shift for me.
But let's think about that messaging. You're a mother of a fantastic young woman, and certainly for me, my influence out there with young women is we are all very different and we have to love every aspect of ourselves. And there's lots of things everybody wants to change always about themselves.
Of course, yeah.
But again, think about your strengths. What is it that you've got to offer people? Yeah, and love that and I guess demonstrate that to young women that none of us are perfect, but there's a whole lot to love.
Yeah. And just how, I see it, when I'm in that frame of mind and when I'm putting it out there, like people will talk to me and say to me, I hate using the word contagious, especially during our COVID period, but they say like seeing that in you, it makes them feel good about themselves.
Of course it does.
When they're around someone that feels that way. Yes, it's wonderful for you, but I find with interactions with other people, people are like, I don't know what it is, but there's like, I like this.
That's because you're putting out really great energy, and everyone wants to be around somebody that's, exuding energy as opposed to energy vampires.
The dementors, as I call them. Yeah.
So if you're putting out that positive energy and it's real, remember, it's got to be real.
Yes, yeah.
It can't be put on energy.
Yeah.
It's got to be real. And then you can't not be impacted positively by that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So there you go. So maybe the messaging is your big love may or may not be someone else.
It's not really going to keep me warm at night, Meagan, and do other things that I need done. But anyway,
gosh, okay, I can't go there.
We'll see. We've still got a few months left in 2022.
Okay.
And we've got to keep the podcast going. So I still need, more love advice. And
all right.
so I'm going to write that dating book one. I'm going to write that.
Okay, good.
I just have to be ready to share some of the dating details.
Everybody like me loves to read those books, though.
Yeah.
Because it's, it's important for us to know what life is
going
like.
on. Yeah. So you can feel very
in the
smug
real world.
in your own wonderful relationships.
It's certainly not smugness. It's just actually understanding.
It's curiosity.
Curiosity.
We come back to that. All right, Meagan, we have our message from the universe that you open up.
Oh,
I've got 2 boxes. I've got Carpe Diem or Trust Your Crazy Ideas. Which box will give you your message?
Totally no competition. Trust your crazy ideas.
All right. Let's... Oh, we've dropped the box. That's okay. Well, we've only got 3 left in that box, so that's okay.
Middle one.
Middle one. And
Middle
she's
child
opening up the front.
Chooses it. So I have to go like this?
Yeah,
okay.
just like
this is
pop
cool.
it open. And that's some message from the universe that you need to hear.
Do I read it?
Yes.
Creativity makes a leap, then looks to see where it is. Mason Cooley. I think I'm going to have to think on that.
Well, I think there's a bottle of champagne with our name on it a bit later on this afternoon.
All right.
So I say we go a deep dive on that with
awesome.
Our Moet a little bit later on.
Beautiful.
Meagan, where can people find you, chat to you, apart from my place or a wine bar with me? But where can people find you? Connect. Best
LinkedIn.
place.
LinkedIn is always really great.
Yep.
And
some of the stuff you're doing, what kind of
so doing lots of work in obviously the innovation space. So as I think I mentioned a little bit earlier, we just we just had our East Coast Festival. That's why I am on the Gold Coast. So that has just happened, but we're about to run a West Coast Festival, which will be in November. So you can just go on to the old www.innovationandeducationfestival.com. So for people on the East Coast, you can get online tickets for that. Some amazing speakers. Jump on, have a look at the program, have a look at who you can engage with. If you are over on the West Coast, please come along. We've got keynote speakers, panelists, master classes. We'll do you'll love this. On the West Coast, it's called a sundowner. It's not called a cocktail party. It's called a sundowner. Sundowner. So we're going to have a sundowner. Super excited. I've got Lantran coming along. If anybody's interested in the whole crypto world, she's going to be teaching us all about Meta. So it's going to be really fun. Anyway, so that's definitely coming up, well worth exploring. I do obviously lots of academic writing. Not sure if anybody wants to read that, but there's some great blogs on our website as well. And obviously through MLC's website, a lot of the work that we're doing in the spaces that we're working on with innovation projects, partnering with, as I said earlier, some social enterprises and some young entrepreneurs who are doing some incredible work. I'd love to see people getting behind those entrepreneurs. They are really special people who are passionate about what they're doing. So that would be amazing.
Love that. All right. Well, this is an end to our podcast. I want to say a huge thank you for popping in, Meagan, while you're over this side of the coast. It's been wonderful.
Thank you so much for having me.
That's a wrap. We will, of course, talk to you again next week. So have a fantastic week, whatever you are up to. I'm Midja, and thank God it's Monday.
Trust you enjoyed this episode of the Mondays with Midja podcast. Host Midja Fisher is a leadership expert, keynote speaker, coach and facilitator. To find out more about Midja, visit midja.com.au or follow her on Instagram at Midja Fisher, and make sure you subscribe, share and leave a review.